I live off of this kind of like thesis that delusion leads to obsession, which leads to success. Last week we spoke about my personal reasoning as behind why I want to do this and the things that have happened in my life that have led to me being who I am today. What I want to talk about today is the mindset that I employ anytime I want to take on a big project, push myself, do something that seems like it shouldn't be doable. That's perspective, obviously, but it's also not perspective. You know, we're going to touch on some certain things. If you look at, and I'm going to use a couple of examples that are very large scale at this point, before I scale it down and bring it to my version. If you look at people who are in the top of their field, they are there for a reason. They're not there because they accidentally got there. They are there for a reason. If we look at somebody like Elon Musk, he is the richest man in the world because he wanted to be the richest man in the world. You don't accidentally become the richest man in the world, but you also don't get to that position without having a hell of a lot of doubt. And that is a bloke that, despite all of his successes, still continuously has a lot of doubt thrown at him. And he's one of the people that proves exactly what I'm saying to a beautiful, infinite degree. In order to want to be the best at something, you have to want to be the best at it. You can't just accidentally be the best at something, right? Genetics will only take you so far, and a disposition to just be naturally good at whatever it is that you're good at will only get you so far. The rest of it is hard work, dedication, and obsession to that singular craft. If we look at Elon and we say, okay, I don't know how the story of his life, I don't particularly care. I'm going to use this as a hyperbolic example. But if we look at him and we say, when he was 15, he turned around to his dad, right? And he turned around and he said, Dad, one day I'm going to be the richest man in the world. His dad probably looked at him and went, shut the fuck up. Stop being stupid. You're delusional. And that delusion is seen as a bad thing by a lot of people. It's seen as something that is actually going to hold you back and isn't going to be beneficial. And actually, quite frankly, delusion is a superpower. If you can be so deluded to believe in yourself to the level that you can be the absolute best at something in a world where pretty much everything that we do is insanely saturated, that is a superpower, because not anyone else has that belief. Like, you've got to be some level of sick and narcissistic, not even necessarily narcissistic. It comes across that way a lot of the time, to have that level of faith in yourself, because not many people do. I don't think it's narcissistic. But I suppose that's perspective, right? Delusion is, I think, something that has such a negative connotation behind the word itself. It's something that people look at and say, like, you're delusional. And that's meant to be a bad thing. That isn't meant to be a compliment. If you are so delusional in the sense that you can believe in yourself to be the best, to do this thing that should theoretically be far beyond your personal limitations, you are also well within your right to go out and chase that delusion, that dream, that whatever it is that you want. I live off of this kind of like thesis that delusion leads to obsession, which leads to success. If you, and it goes back to what I was talking about last week about becoming limitless, and the fact that, you know, in order to just push yourself, you have to go against what it is that, you know, you've been told is your limitation, or what you think is your limitation. In order to do that, you have to be obsessed with that idea. You know, that somewhere out there, there's probably some kid that's thinking, like, I'm really good at doing box jumps. I'm going to be the first person to do a standing 2.5 meter, 3 meter box jump. And people will look at that and think that's impossible. You're delusional. Someone at some point is going to do it. The same as the first ever sub 4 minute mile. Everybody thought that was impossible. And then all of a sudden somebody done it. And then more and more and more and more and more people started to do it. Once one person does it, it's no longer a delusion. It's just difficult. all it takes is one delusional person to make something work, and then all of a sudden other people start realizing that they can do it as well. And you know, it works in any industry, any aspect of your life, anything that it is that you decide that you want to do. And don't let anybody tell you that that sort of delusion is unhealthy, because I truly believe that it is not. I truly believe that it is a huge driving factor behind a lot of what people want in life. How do I employ this for my life, and how can you employ it into yours? Well, it's quite simple, really. I personally don't care much for being the best at anything. I'd rather be good at lots of things as opposed to the best at any one thing. My delusions come more on a smaller scale, as opposed to, you know, wanting to be the singular best person at one thing. What I'm doing, the Odyssey project. The Odyssey project, even now, like, regardless of how hard I train, and regardless of how fit I am, regardless of how confident I am about it, I'm still met with people that doubt me, and that's fine. Like, for me, it's all the more reason to be completely obsessed with what it is that I'm doing. And quite frankly, if you'd have said to me 3-4 years ago, like, you know, shortly after I broke my leg, that I would be trying to run the entire length of the country, I probably would have thought that was pretty stupid. Do you know what I mean? I probably would have called that delusional. So for me, I employ this. I never set a goal that I feel like I can actually achieve now. Otherwise, it's not a goal. I can just go out and do it. Being delusional is taking a goal that is currently out of reach and saying that you can do it, and then becoming so obsessed with doing it that you have no other choice other than to do it. Delusion of saying, I'm going to take something that is vastly unachievable for me at this point in time, and I'm going to do it, requires you to build yourself and requires you to work and make yourself better as a person. That is where the power comes. Having that dream and actually really wanting something is a huge driving factor as to getting out of bed in the morning. You know, if there isn't anything in life that you truly want for, whether that be some sort of materialistic thing or to achieve a goal or whatever that might be for each individual, why do you carry on? What is your purpose? What is it if you don't have anything? Like, I'm so obsessed with what I do, and I'm so locked into what I do, that in the week leading up to me getting sick, I was spending more hours a day training and running, or as many hours a day training and running as I was sleeping. And I was doing that on top of running companies and making decisions and, you know, doing all the artworks and the you know, making phone calls, having meetings, streaming, making videos, you know, taking charge of staff and telling staff what to do and doing whatever, all of the varying, like, day-to-day responsibilities that I was doing. I was training for hours and hours and hours every day on top of that, and not sleeping. And it wasn't that I wasn't sleeping because I didn't want to sleep. I just couldn't. Like, you know, I was so obsessed with what it is that I'm doing that sleep just seemed like a necessary evil more than anything. It was kind of wasted if I slept more than 5 or 6 hours. And I wasn't setting alarms. It was just what my body was doing. Now, obviously, that does come with a cost. And I'm not saying to go out and do that sort of thing, because it made me ill. I mean, I'm pretty much on the mend now, and I'll be fine by tomorrow, hopefully. If you truly want something, being obsessed with something isn't bad. It isn't a negative thing, despite what people say. People call it unhealthy just because you're passionate about something, because you're obsessed with doing that one thing, because you want to do it over and over and over and over again. But if it brings you joy, if it gets you out of bed, then why would you not do it? If that gives you a purpose in life, whether that be at that singular point in your life, or whether that be a point in your life later on down the line, why would you not do it? You're a moron if you don't, right? I think that anyone can employ this kind of like 3-step process in their life. Take a point where you're at now. And I truly do believe that if you are unhealthy and you want to get yourself in a better position, the best place you can start is by saying, I want to run a marathon. And if you just said, there's no way I'll ever be able to run a marathon, good. That is what you need to be saying to yourself, because that means you then become delusional. If you tell yourself that you are delusional. And that delusion, that will be what drives you to become so obsessed to gain the ability to be able to run a marathon that you have no other reason than to go out and train and push yourself and drag yourself out of bed every day to the point that you begin to absolutely love it and your body craves it and pushes you for more and more and more and more and more. When I done my first marathon, I was fat, I was overweight, I was unhealthy, I walked with a limp, I couldn't walk 500 meters to the local shop without wanting to sit down on the benches outside by the time I got there. And I decided, fuck this, I'm going to run a marathon. And at the time, everybody told me I was delusional. When I was sat there talking with Pud about this video earlier and about the whole concept of the video, I said to him, I was like, do you remember when I rung you up about that? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, I was delusional, right? He was like, well, at the time, yeah. And I was like, what is it now? He goes, well, it was fucking massive for you, right? It's like changed your life. I was like, 100%. Being delusional isn't bad, is it? And it kind of helped drum the point across to him because he could see what I was talking about from a real life experience, right? And, you know, that's the thing. Like, if you are overweight and unhealthy and struggling to find a reason to do it, it's because any reason that you are coming up with doesn't feel powerful enough. It doesn't feel like enough of a reason to get you out of bed to motivate you to do it. For anybody that's watching this that wants to go out and achieve and do whatever it is that you want to do, just make it that little bit harder. It sounds stupid, but if you can, like, I honestly truly believe that this is the best way to get yourself to truly actually stick to it, to a point that it becomes habitual and so rewarding as well. Be delusional, be obsessed. Let your goals take over every single fiber of your being. Let it take over every spare waking minute that you've got. I'm not saying go and quit your job to start running or go and quit your job to become London's most famous hairstylist, whatever. I don't care. Like, whatever your goal is, right? I'm not saying go and quit your job and give up stability for that. But there's nothing wrong with dedicating time to something that you don't think, that like as a part of you don't think will work, because our lives are pretty cushy. Like, you know, 99% of us have food, have water, have shelter. It's like the three main things that you need to live. But why just survive in a world where just surviving is now really fucking easy? You know, you should be thriving. If you have anything to ask, fire it away in the comments. Next week, the actual docuseries is going to start. If you want me to cover any more topics like this, please do let me know, because I absolutely adore talking about things like this. Something I'm insanely passionate about. But yeah, the real docuseries will start next week. As I said, I've been sick, so I've not been able to film the first like training video or anything, which is very fucking irritating. But here we are. And yeah, like, subscribe. Nice. I'll be back soon. Don't just suck it. Halford suck it.